Good afternoon and welcome to a rather dreich Riverside Park for our bottom of the Premiership clash between Jedforest and Selkirk. Hopefully Jedforest will be firing on all cylinders this week as they chase that elusive first win of the season after only securing 3 bonus points so far. Selkirk are only just faring a little bit better, being 17 points above them in the league, and of course they came out on top the last time these two teams met earlier this year. Here with this afternoon's highlights, it's Dale Clancy and Robin Purdie.
Jed are going to be playing out of the town in their red and blue lettered tops with the full navy and white of the suitors going into the town, and it's a kick-off from Dom Buckley. He's been gathered by Scott McClyment, who burrows his head down quickly and hares away from the 22. Just gets caught just shy of the 10 metre line by Robbie Shearer Gibbs, so Alderson will get a chance to just pop the ball into the sky, and Mason Cullen's got his first chance to foray back into the defensive line. He's been well met initially, just short of the halfway line, and the ball's been distributed there by Lewis Elder, trying to get a bit of width on this play with his blue skull cap on. Looks to go against the grain now. Manages to find an on-rush in Elliot Lauder. 2 tries in the previous defeat. There's only 2 tries in this campaign so far this season. And now a foray for Harry Meadows. He's been well dealt with as well, and the forwards very attritional in this early stages of the game, but the high challenge coming in there from the forwards. I think a mixture of Bett and Westlake there, just riding a little bit high.
No attempt to go low, up above sternum.
And certainly the referee signalling there was absolutely no attempt to try and dip in the challenge, so it gives Buckley a chance to kick downfield. He's made his touch, and it's been a positive start for Jedforest. Just inside the 22, and sizing up his targets as both teams opt for the full line. It's been Blake Roth as the target. He's been brought down safely to ground. The Jed players congregate on that driving maul. It's crabbing towards the touchline, but it's filtered its way through that maul, and it's now in the hands of Dom Buckley, who's got Rory Marshall on rushing, who's been clattered by Andrew McComb, who managed to get a shoulder into the sternum there and make a really good challenge. Jedforest peppering the 22 metre line. Do get the penalty for an infringement there. Westlake again in the thick of the action, and Jedforest look to try and go quickly, and it's Ben Fotheringham who's charging forward, takes a quick tap, looks to try and manipulate this defence, and now the ball just filtered through the hands. Mason Cullen gathers the bobbling ball, but Ben Pickles isn't able to bring him down. He then uses a bit of evasive footwork to make his way into the 22 now. Elder, he distributes. It's good work there from Wardrop. Bring some players into the action. One of them is Dom Buckley, who's just tucked it under the shoulder and just drives forward. Cranston stabs it forward. Adam McComb is sweeping up in behind. He distributes back in field to Callum Anderson, who left-footed kick clears his lines, and it's a great kick. Has been watched here by Gregor Young, expertly catched just on the halfway line as well. A man who loves counter-attack in rugby just shrugs off the first challenge from Callum Anderson, who did well to make ground to make that challenge. And Gregor Young's made his way towards the 10 metre line. Now Marshall offloading out of the tackle. He does find Dan Wardrop, who's on the shoulder. Now Lewis Elder's in support. He's been wrapped up by Luke Petty. Ball presented back expertly there by the scrum half as well. Now Captain Clark Skeldon is clattered by Shafarjak. The ball just bobbles out of that breakdown there, and the players from Jedforest are running with a lot of intent onto the ball, looking to win that physical battle up front. Buckley just manages to gather the ball and then throws the dummy. Goes into Ross Nixon, a couple of familiar foes in border rugby. The ball making its way forward. Again, just runs aground, and Jedforest quite happy to play. Jedforest happy to play that attritional style of rugby. The referee just signalling that Scott McComb was the player who was infringing there. So it's going to be another penalty to Jedforest. And again, it's been slightly one-way traffic in terms of attacking ability so far.
Yeah, it has. Jed have had all the possession, all the territory, and Selkirk have conceded 3 penalties into the bargain. I think if there was any doubt about Jed's intent in this one, it was when the imminently kickable 3-pointer on the back of the second penalty was given up in favour of Ben Fotheringham tapping and going. So Jed, they know they need tries.
Do you well, I might get your thoughts on that after this passage of play, but it's potentially one of those calls this early on in the game. We've played 4 minutes. You need to get points on the board. That almost opens opportunity in the field.
I think
went short of the line out. We'll get Robin Purdie's thoughts in just a second. The ball getting back into the field of play pretty quickly, and hold on, unorthodox line out there from Jedforest, but it works well. The carry forward from the captain, Clark Skeldon, makes a couple of yards there, and the forwards just looking to keep it tight. Very robust in the forwards, and they've littered a bench full of them as well. The likes of Stenhouse, Bates, Law and Howe on the bench. Elder distributes to Buckley, who's straddling the 22-metre line, looks to find Cranston running that short line just onto the outside shoulder, but it's been defended well, and trying to get the ball away from the breakdown. It's a cough up of possession from Elder, and back to the point we were talking about, obviously not opting to go for that penalty. There was a chance there, 3 points to nil. That sometimes opens up position in the field later on.
Yeah, it does, Dale, and normally there's no bigger advocate for take your points than me, but Jed, 4 points from this today is just not good. It's just not enough for Jed, and you know they need to get 5 at all costs, and they need to get 5 in a few other games as well.
It's going to be difficult underfoot for these set pieces to go to fruition, but Jedforest have given a good account of themselves at this one. They're almost cancelling each other out, but it drives forward, and Selkirk managed to manipulate the penalty from that scrum set piece. 359 appearances, if my People's High School maths teacher did me any favours. It's certainly an experienced front row for Selkirk, and from the line out they throw it in, they get it down to ground quickly, and they're herring their way upfield from that driving maul over the halfway line. Now finds Ross Nixon in midfield as the ball is fed into the wider channels. And about 50 metres in from touch as Andrew McComb just works his way round the corner. He's clattered as well by Fotheringham in defence, but rides the challenge well. Now McComb spots a little gap, floats the ball to Josh Welsh, and he's got some space to run into. He looks to chip the ball over Mason Cullen, but the bobbling ball bouncing infield has been well watched by the fullback returning to Riverside. And he's held on the ground, looks to pop up, and I think the referee is signalling there that the penalty is going to go the way of Selkirk. And it's been first 5 minutes or so has been all Jedforest, and all of a sudden they win a scrum penalty, they have a good attacking line out, they win the next penalty, and they're about 7 metres shy of the Jed line. Bet sizes up his targets, he finds Andrew McComb at the front, the ball has been brought down, and then they're looking to try and make some inroads. They start crabbing forward slightly, and it's now making good head of steam. It's making its way towards the line. The referee having a little conversation with his assistant referee Ian Herd, and he signals that the try has been scored. It did look like James Bett had risen up there, but there's a whole host of Selkirk players who could have potentially got that try. It was a messy maul in the end, but it was effective, and twice we've seen Selkirk bring that ball down from the line out, get that maul going, and they're making good inroads from that passage of play.
Absolutely, it's just so hard to defend against.
9 minutes gone, and I think James Bett perhaps was the player who got that try, as confirmed by Josh Welsh. So thank you very much, Josh, for helping us confirm who the try scorer was. And it is a touchline conversion which has just not managed to make it. I think Hugo Alderson is also a bit bemused that that's not managed to make it over the crossbar. He had accuracy, but perhaps not the distance. Jedforest on the halfway line. It's been lofted, and it's been lost as well by Jed, because the big paw of Andrew McComb got on the road. So Selkirk, they clear their lines from the 22, and they then get possession. It's now in the hands of Scott McClyman, burrowing, a bit squeeze ball as well between the knees. Ross Nixon linking up well with McComb. He's got Callum Anderson out behind him as well, and he just scoops that ball over the head of Mason Cullen. And in this sticky ground, that might just be a fortunate kick for Callum Anderson, and Mason Cullen's just want to play a bit of rugby because he's looking to steam out of his own try line, but he's been scragged and the ball has just run free, and now that loose ball is bobbling about, but the referee is going to bring it back. And that was certainly adventurous from Mason Cullen, but defence from Selkirk forcing the error. Hugo Alderson pops the ball into the scrum, and again it's a strong effort from this visit inside, and they're starting to crab their way towards that line. It's making its way, the scrum is starting to splinter, but it's been brilliantly controlled by Andrew McComb at the back of that scrum, and he just dives his way over the whitewash, and the Selkirk number 8 doubles the lead for the Sooters, and they lead after 12 and a half minutes. They now lead 10 points to nil.
They do indeed, and they've been hugely efficient with what possession that they've had. That was a really, really strong effort from the forwards, and that lays down a bit of a marker for the rest of the game as far as the Jed forwards are concerned as well. Not only the 5 points that might become 7, it's the message it sends as well. You look at the two forward packs though, and even for the build up to that try, a lot of it is the fact that
Selkirk's forwards have been more accurate. They won the line out directly
Yeah.
in front of us. They were then able to squeeze in the scrum. And Hugo Alderson does manage to split the kindling this time to get the 2 points, and he'll be a little bit happier this time, the young scrum half. Another scrum for Selkirk. Alderson puts in. It's a steady platform yet again. He loiters behind McComb, just patting him on the upper thigh as it drives forward. He's desperate on that ball, and eventually it's been distributed by McComb. The ball bobbling about, it then gets into the hands of Pickles. He puts the fend in on Rory Marshall, who's trying to scamper back. He gets a second bite because he's been supported by Shearer Gibb. And now the counter ruck is coming on from Jedforest inside their own 22, but Finlay Whelans acts as scrum half. Nixon just distributes the ball and tips it on to Scott McClyman. The Selkirk players just catapult themselves into that breakdown, and now peeling off the side. McComb is clattered but gives it to Nixon, and Anderson is then wrapping round in support. He runs into Gregor Young. He's still rising high, but they're 7-8 metres shy of that Jedforest try line now, with another penalty coming. Another line out. Bet, ball above his head, finds Andrew McComb. It's been brought down, so Bet is packed down and well protected in that driving maul. It's starting to get ahead of steam now. It's going to just collapse just short. The referee having a good look in that breakdown. He's got his head burrowed in there, as does Hugo Alderson, because you can see the ball appear now as the bodies just roll out of the way. Shafarjak goes to the left-hand side, thinks he spots a space, but has to distribute the ball early to the back of that ruck. Now Bet burrows underneath the players that were looking to try and stop him, making a beeline towards that line. Great tip-off off the floor from Andrew McComb. The ball now bobbling about and ricocheting off all the legs and the bodies there as Jedforest look to pack down and defend robustly. They're doing a great job so far as they get the personnel into position. Aggressive in the challenge. Shafarjak almost caught in his back here, almost rolling as well. The referee's got a keen eye on that as Turnbull tips the ball on to Bet yet again. Third passage of carrying for him. Westlake, he's asking for players to wrap round Alderson. Looks to get the ball from in between his legs, and now it's McComb. He has found Pickles. Pickles, a little kick of the heels, looks to go out and then back in. Offload out the back door to Finlay Whelans, and he has got over for what is a brilliant try. He scored twice in the victory at Philip Hawke, and now he's got one at Riverside as well. But that was brilliantly worked from Selkirk. Attritional in the forwards, and then expansive, and what a bit of skill there from Ben Pickles.
It was a beautiful little pop out the back door, and it was a real poacher's finish from Finlay Whelans. As you mentioned, he's got tries to his name already against Jed, and he helped himself to another there. But yeah, it was a real team try, if you like. The hard yards were done by the forwards in the face of what was quite decent defence by Jed, but yeah, had to come.
The home side, Jedforest, have just had another 2 points added to that deficit that they face. Alderson getting his second conversion of the afternoon. 20 minutes gone here at Riverside Park. Jedforest 0, Selkirk 19. Line out successful this time. It's been gathered by Blake Roth but driven back by Selkirk, but Jedforest have done well to maintain possession. It's into the hands of Keith, and now filtering its way back through that driving maul. And Jedforest splintered off the side and makes some good inroads as Skeldon now plucks the ball from the ground and then drives forward. He's asking the referee for the advantage, of which he gets. Penalty advantage coming for the home side as Meadows now scampers towards the line. The 5 metre line is beckoning there. Buckley throws the big dummy but not able to distribute the ball. Elder is now straddling over the ball and manages to find Lauder. It's actually Wardrop who carries forward on this occasion. He is met with some robust Selkirk defence yet again. Roth picks and goes round the corner. The clatchy ground perhaps just slowing these players up slightly. The little dribble through from Dom Buckley just doesn't go to plan. So the referee is going to come back for the penalty there. And it's another penalty against Selkirk. 6 penalties conceded so far in 27 minutes of this game. And it's a chance for Jedforest to perhaps a tap and go here. I don't think they'll opt to go for the scrum. Elder sizing up his options, taps it with his left foot, then distributes to Skeldon, who's taking the ball stationary. So Jedforest have had to retreat in terms of territory as Elder then finds Roth in a wider challenge. McClyman is there, a willing tackler as always. A live wire in the back row for Selkirk, slightly different to his back row partner Westlake. Another penalty advantage coming is I think Luke Petty perhaps riding a little bit high this time. Buckley just tips the ball on, a little bit of crossing as well. So the referee again is going to give another penalty to Jedforest. And when you're in this perhaps comes back to that 3 points, because when you're in this scenario, you're now 19 points 0 down. You had a chance to go 3-0 up and put a little bit of pressure on the opposition. This is where your options are now limited.
Yeah, they have to chase it now. There's nothing else they can do, and they've gone quickly again.
Buckley goes quickly and tips it on to Ferguson. I think he's been hit hard and high yet again. The advantage is coming the way, it's not 10 this time from the referee, but well intercepted by Welsh, offloaded to Anderson, and there was Clare Prairie in behind, but the referee is going to give the penalty. Scott McClyman offside, and he's going to have a word with the captain.
Talking up for various things. That needs to improve.
Just telling Scott McClyman that penalties need to improve. Selkirk have suffered 3 yellow cards this season, Jedforest 7, so certainly have got a better disciplinary record, but Jedforest are now looking to try and make amends and take advantage of this opportunity that they have. Captain Skeldon again leading the charge towards that try line, now looking to peel round the corner and then jumping and catapulting himself over that breakdown. And it's a brilliant try from Jedforest as they managed to breach the defence. He had to go aerial, but it is Elliot Lauder, the player. He's got 2 tries this season, both came against Selkirk, so you can make that 3 now. And it was a well worked try. They had to work really hard for it, but discipline wise for Selkirk, they gave Jedforest that opportunity.
They've racked up 8 penalties now, Selkirk, 3 or 4 which were in the last couple of minutes, and you do wonder if one of those could have resulted in a card.
And Jedforest are successful from the line out. They managed to win their own ball, again looking to find Roth, and the ball has made its way in field for Marshall. Now Young, who's now playing at fly half, he finds his captain Skeldon, who has been met by Pickles, who is able to rip the ball free. And then after that, it was Riddle who managed just to pounce on the ball. Now Ben Pickles making his way into the Jedforest half. Alderson scampering away from that breakdown, does well to distribute. Now McClyman has to stretch to gather that ball. He could almost just run into some trouble, but does well to get upright quickly, get his eyes alert. And now the ball is back into the pocket for Aaron McComb. It's been touched in flight. It's been then gathered by Skeldon. He offloads straight into the hands of Elliot Lauder, the only try scorer for Jedforest so far this afternoon. And he has just made his way over the halfway line. Now Riddle, almost like a man possessed off that bench. He's just absolutely clattered Elder at the back of that ruck. Now Gregor Young challenged, pirouettes, brought to ground. The little chip over the head is now Finlay Whelans, who's got to try and up the ante and get back to get the ball. He finds Anderson, left-footed kick high into the sky here at Riverside Park as the lights are now on. It's been gathered, the fallen ball went into the clutches of Robbie Shearer-Gibb, another try scorer in that defeat at Philip Hawke earlier on in September. Away from the breakdown, Ferguson, who's been a bit of a find for this home side this season, but there is going to be a penalty, and I think Robin, for the first time in this game, there is going to be a yellow card. The ball has been launched back at Luke Petty, so yellow card for Luke Petty. You did say it was coming, and it came in the form of the front row, so that's going to be a bit of an equaliser perhaps, because Luke Petty is a bit of an anchor in that scrum battle. So the kick downfield, and you heard the referee just speaking to the Jed camp about the retaliation. Yeah,
don't need to go down that road, Jed. They need to get back into this game. That's 10 penalties conceded by Selkirk now, and they're 19-5 to the good still. You don't see that too often.
Referee just making sure that you can get this line out formed, and Roth is the target yet again. Every single line out that's been won, the 7 of them that have been won for Jedforest have been all Roth. And then off of the driving maul, Harvey Keith looks to try and breach the defensive line. He's been met well by some stern Selkirk defence, but presents the ball back well. And Jedforest are now starting to up the ante, and you imagine now, before half-time, if they're able to get a try here, we've got a game in our hands, and after about 20 minutes, we certainly didn't think that was going to be the case. Meadows rolls the ball back into the hands of Elliot Lauder. He then tips the ball forward and knocks it on. Shivarjak looks to, I don't think he was going to go the distance from the 5 metre line, but he's certainly full of endeavour. Ball through the hands. Nixon then punts it downfield. It's going to end up in the hands of Mason Cullen. Does well to gather on the turn as well, and then looks to try and spot the gap. Kicks it over the top and then bundles his way over Hugo Alderson. And then in the backfield there was a Selkirk player who was making his way back, and I think it was Andrew Cochrane who was the first player to dive on that loose bobbling ball. Alderson finds Shivarjak. He carries forward into the chest of Blake Roth. who looks to dig about in that breakdown for that ball. Slow play down as Alderson then finds Westlake, who looks to try and pierce through those two Jedforest challenges. Alderson taking his time with the ball and dribbling it to the back of that snake that's formed at the back of that ruck. It's been hoisted into the sky, and Cullen again has watched that, expertly grabs it and clutches it to his chest. A little kick of the heels, and Finlay Whelans does well to challenge, supported there by Bruce Riddle, but the ball's now floated over the head. Harvey Keith then filters the ball over to Brodie Irvine. He makes good inroads there as well. Ball offloaded back inside. Elliot Lauder is in support up towards the 22 metre line. Keith has to act as the scrum half, the auxiliary scrum half on this occasion. Jedforest are not getting in support there quick enough, but the ball has come back as Elder gets the ball. Big Harry Meadows now pirouetting out of a challenge that was presented to him by Bruce Riddle. Shearer Gibb, his first receiver, just links up with Gregor Young, who's on the wrap coming round the corner. Ferguson now acting as scrum half, and it almost looks like Jedforest are just trying to deploy the option of get the ball away from the breakdown as quick as possible, because Ferguson again is the scrum half there, Fotheringham burrows his way over the challenge there of young Hugo Alderson, the scrum half from Heriots. Now Young, he finds Cranston with a flat pass into the eye line of Rory Marshall, but it just glances in front of him, and the referee has signalled that it is half time here at Riverside Park, and it's 5 points to 19, but it's been an interesting battle here. Time to get the second half underway here at Riverside Park. Jedforest currently trailing 5 points to 19, and the referee blasts his whistle, and Selkirk kick deep in towards the Jedforest 22. It's been gathered by Robbie Shearer Gibb, who manages to gather the ball and try and make his way in towards the Selkirk defence, and a bit of seesaw and rugby here as Elder is dispatched of his scrum cap and then dispatches of the ball to his captain Clark Skeldon, who's been challenged on the 22 metre line, now deep back towards Cranston, who takes up the kicking duties from his own 22 metre area, as Callum Anderson then just puts on the afterburners, thinks he spots a chasm in the defence of Jedforest, and instead of opting and even thinking about kicking, he just put the head down, and now Bruce Riddle is going direct as well. Selkirk with their tails up at the start of their second half. Westlake bounces the first challenge, then almost bounces the second. It takes 2 or 3 men from Jedforest to bring the back row down to ground. Nixon getting the ball through the hands. Callum Anderson then linking up with Josh Welsh, who comes back on an abrasive cut, and he's looking to make his way towards the line, but he's been well defended. Ball bobbles out from Hugo Alderson. It's found Callum Anderson, who's been wrapped up there by Shearer Gibb, and also I think Ben Fotheringham was there as well. Alderson distributes to Scott McClyman, who is as wiry and weaselly as always with the ball in hand. Milburn, it bounces a couple of challenges. Again, it takes 3 or 4 Jedforest players to bring a Selkirk runner down. Alderson to McComb. It's Aaron McComb this time, who sizes up his options, looks to go against the grain, finds Callum Anderson, and he then flops over the try line for a try, and it has been a brilliant start to this second half for Selkirk. And it was good awareness there from Aaron McComb to spot the gap on the right hand side, but Callum Anderson essentially was the player that started that passage of play as he gathered the ball deep inside his own half and sparked a little bit of life into that passage.
He did indeed. It was great play by the little general McComb. He knew where the space was, he knew where his fullback Anderson was, and that is the all important 4th try.
And Alderson has got a chance here to add a little bit more, and he strikes the ball with so much ease, is able to add the extras. 26 points to 5 now. Selkirk are in front. Rough target yet again, successfully gathered, brought down. It splinters off to the side, and it's Ferguson who's going solo. Lauder burrows forward again. He's run aground in this clatchy, sticky surface underfoot here at Riverside Park, but the Jedforest are going old school. It's pick and goes round the fringes, asking this Selkirk side to defend them. Good challenge from Munro Job there, who's coming to the field of play. Now Young just tips the ball into Shearer Gibb. He's almost handbagged there by Ross Nixon as they look to try and choke the life out of the winger in the most professional of terms, in terms of the challenge that was there. The referee is going to come back for a penalty again against Selkirk. So another penalty conceded. Jedforest do have the penalty here, and it is Elliot Lauder. He's going to just tap and go forward, and he's running to Westlake. He's had a a pretty eventful game so far in this game, in his debut for Selkirk. Now picked round the corner. Inroads being made there by Jedforest. They're looking to go quick and go short and keep it narrow as well and win the arm wrestle against the visiting side. Again, a game that they currently trail 5 points to 26. Looking to breach this whitewash, pick the gaps in the Selkirk defensive line, but they're staying there poised and ready, just lurking round the corner, not encroaching that try line there. That's essentially the offside line as well. As Jed look to go again, they go yet again to the left hand side, going narrower and narrower, looking to pick off the defenders here from Selkirk. Riddle waits, Roth loiters, the bodies bundle over. The referee is having a little look there, and he's put a little bit of time off there because Ian Herd is having a conversation. Aaron McCone clapping his hands as well, and I think he thinks it's been held up, and it has been, and it'll be brilliant to see the body who's got under that, and it is Kieran Westlake. Kick downfield from Selkirk, goes towards the Jedforest 10 metre line. Mason Cullen with his blonde locks just bouncing in the wind as he sizes up his options and then just puts on the afterburners and goes over the opposite 10 metre line. Makes a good 20 metres there from that kick from where he gathered the ball. Jedforest now with the ball in hand, find Gregor Young. He's got some options and he looks to opt to use a trusted one in Rory Marshall, who just bounces off the first attempted tackle there from Andrew McComb. And again another penalty coming on, and I think it's going to be a yellow card for Ross Nixon. So just as Selkirk get back up to 14 players, they're down to 14 players because Ross Nixon is going to take 10 minutes in the sin bin. Bruce Riddle taking up throwing duties at the line out on the 22 metre line. He looks to find his target, not able to. It's then just bobbled off the belly of Shafarjak and then gone loose. Brodie Irvin had to just stifle on that bouncing ball, but he's managed to just break free, and now he is herring out of his own 22 metre line, but just unfortunately for him, I think he tried to carry the ball in one hand, and he's been well defended there by Aaron McComb, who was covering the field. But what a great break there from Brodie Irvin, but it still remains Jedforest 5, Selkirk 26. He throws in, Roth, right hand, just sticks to the ball. He's able to gather. It's then filtering its way to the back where Harvey Keith, the bearded hooker, just waits at the back of the driving maul. He's got the ball tucked under the right arm, and Ferguson is there in support. They're burrowing and they're trying and pumping the legs. They look to try and get over the line, but the referee is going to award the penalty. He's just having a chat with Scott McClyman. He's then going to his left-hand pocket, and he's going to distribute the yellow card to Bruce Riddle. So he's had a good introduction to the game, but he's going to miss the next 10 minutes. Number 16 for Selkirk just trudges off the backfield, and on 6 hour mark, Selkirk are down to 14 men yet again. Jedforest now take the quick penalty, picking round the corner, something which they got their try from in the first half, and it looks like they've got the try for in the second half as well, because they've just burrowed their way round the side, and it looks like big Harry Meadows is the player to rise last from that cluster of bodies, and Jedforest make the numerical advantage on the field count, and they get their second try of the afternoon. The conversion attempt from Cranston, he likes it as well because he's turned away pretty quickly, so he's got a conversion line out directly in front of us. Has been gathered again by Blake Roth, who just chucks it off the top. Gregor Young now hares towards the defensive line, looking to bring Gregor Law into play, and he makes a couple of metres and gets through that physical encounter, carries forward, and you can just almost see there's almost just a little bit more spring in Jedforest's step after that try that they got, and also probably since Gregor Law has come on as well. Elder, he passes to Clark Skeldon. What a formidable second row partnership that is, Skeldon and Law. And Gregor Young just tips the ball back, and it has been gathered there by Ben Howe, who's also on the field of play. So a couple of replacements there from Jedforest, and they're bringing a couple of heavies onto the field because that's a couple of real impactful players that they can call upon in Howe and Law. Now Ferguson, who's had a good game as well, a lot of energy shown, a lot of endeavour from the young front row forward. Roth acts as a pivot. Young then filters the ball to Gregor Law, who just manages to ride the challenge. There's a challenge from Ben Pickles, who did well. Now Marshall bouncing off his right foot back in field. Made his way up to the 10 metre line now. Elder arrives on the scene of the ruck, finds A couple of his forwards just loitering out a little bit wider, linking up to really breach the Selkirk defence, but it's holding strong so far. The ball's not went hand, so Ferguson just has to scoop it off the deck. He's been almost scragged there by Ben Pickles. Elder finds Young. Young tips on. Skeldon's not able to gather. It's been knocked on there, and it's so unfortunate for Jedforest, because I was thoroughly enjoying that passage of play. They were really, the lines of they were running, the hands, the direction that they were playing, but just running a little bit too tight there and running into a bit of trouble. It's a steadier scrum though.
Yeah.
Certainly the
Bates,
effects of Bates has done well, because it never got nudged back whatsoever. The pressure on Andrew McComb at the tail as well, but Cochrane comes round the corner. He carries forward. Westlake barking the orders at the back of that ruck. He wants Petty, he wants some of his more turgid forwards to deploy. But the Jedforest defence just drives the suitors back a couple of yards more. Westlake back into the pocket. Aaron McComb wanting some support back inside, but he's got it for Pickles on the outside shoulder, and he weaves and marauds his way towards the try line. And we thought it was perhaps going to be one of the bulkier players in the Selkirk side to get the score, but it's the lightweight Pickles. Snake Hips managed to get his way through that defensive line and go over for a score.
Yeah, great finish from the youngster. Been a real fillip for the Philip Haw man to have him back in the fold after his stint at the Southern Knights.
And Selkirk have scored well over their average per game, and Jedforest have at the moment conceded well under their average per game. The additional 2 points added there from Alderson. It means it's 33 points to 12. Selkirk lead. The scrum in front of the stand there. The ball picked up by Fotheringham. He's not able just to swat off Scott McClyman, who tackles him like a loose yow at tennis. He does well to stop any marauding run from the number 8. The ball now getting a little bit wider through the hands of Marshall and Cullen. A little kick of the heels and a power through the challenge. And they're going to have to do well to just get back and shackle the live wire fullback. He's over the 10 metre line now. He twists and weaves and just gets himself into the most uncomfortable of positions in contact, but always ends up upright as the ball is presented back to Selkirk. They've made a fist of that at the ruck breakdown. The pitch illuminated, but there's little light to be seen in this campaign for Jedforest towards the end of the season. Still winless in the Premiership. The ricocheting ball now in the dead ball area, and the referee has spotted that there's a knock on. The game gotten very scrappy, but you've got to imagine that this defeat, because the referee has just blasted the final whistle, and you've got to imagine that this defeat is probably the most damaging one so far in Jedforest's campaign. A home defeat to Selkirk means that they now trail. They were the next team in the table if at the start of the day. It certainly was Selkirk, so they're now 22 points behind Selkirk in the table, so there's little to no hope to be able to overturn that, but they are yet to win so far in this campaign. So it is Selkirk who leave here with the victory. 12 points to 33 they win, and they put a huge gulf in between them and Jedforest in the table in the quest for survival in the Premiership.
Next week we're off to Millbrae for Ayr versus Melrose. Hope you can join us then, but for now, cheerio.